What's up guys, TheAmigoShotz here, and today I'm gonna make a quick update on my Windtripper build for 3.1. There is a pretty major change, which is that I've now moved over from Ranger as the Raider Ascendancy to Scion. The reason for that is the fact that since Wild Pact has been nerfed, so now that it doesn't give instant leech anymore, where it just doubles the leech rate, Slayer just got a whole lot more attractive. The fact that Slayer, both in its ascendancy and the Slayer ascendancy, um, allows you to keep Leech even at full life, makes it a fuck ton better, just compared to any other ascendancy. The fact that you can if you get a big enough hit and stuff, you can probably in the labyrinth, for example, run through traps just by having the leech constantly regenerating, which is totally crazy compared to the raider. Of course, we get a little bit less damage, but the fact that it is on a Scion, it also allows us to get the Scion life notes more easily, as well as the crit multi notes here, which is pretty good overall. So if you just go over the tree real quick, this tree is for level 100. If you were level 90, you would probably just remove some of the life notes somewhere, because we already at like over 7k life, and this is without any legacy gear at all, and only 3 stat jewels. Of course we have life on every jewel here, but wait, what? Where are we using Lionized Fall? That's actually a mistake in path building. So we're using this one, so we actually are almost 7.8k life here. The flasks we're using a Serious Promise, Dying Sun, Quicksilver Flask, of course, Diamond Flask, and Vessel of Victor. For the belts, we just want strength to have enough strength for our Chaos Heart, as well as just resists and weapon elemental damage. On our Diamond Ring, we want some. Generally, actually, an Opal Ring would be better, but it will be much more expensive. You want Life, Wet, and Intelligence on at least one of them, as well as Resists. Intelligence we need for our Wrath gem. Actually, we don't have enough right now, but so that means that we'll have to pick up some more nodes to get some better gear. But this was just for Fury crafting, that's why I don't have enough right there. The boots, just 2-tone boots, life, movement speed, and resists. You can also craft weight if you want to. This is just, again, for the purpose of path building. Gloves, attack speed, life. You could also use Maligaros. I don't know how much more DPS it would give, but I would suppose that the life is probably more worth it, unless you have legacy face breakers or stuff like that. The amulet again, crit multi, wet if you can get it, or else just life and added elemental damages and crit and resists, and intelligence, of course, if you can get that as well. Chaos Heart is the best in slot. If you don't want that, you can also use a Queen of the Forest, which will bump your life down by a lot, but will give you way more movement speed. And then you swap one of your flasks out for a Jade Flask of reflexes instead, which would, like, the new Queen of the Forest caps out at 100% evasion, or sorry, 100% movement speed from your evasion, but it's still 100% more movement speed, which is still gonna give you a lot of clear speed. But for bosses and stuff, Chaos is definitely the way to go. But bear in mind that you'll have to swap out your gems for your single target setup. So you might actually just want to use a belly instead, which will still bump you down to around 7k, but it also helps you a little bit more with the resists, and allows you for both a barrage and a tornado shot setup. But if you're just farming maps, Chaos is just fine. And you can just swap out the gems for Shaper and stuff like that. The Starconia set, this is the DPS, of course, on Shaper and without the enchantments. If you were to get the +2 barrage enchant, which now is legacy, but +1, wait, let me see here if I can enchant it real quick. Where is it? This is the one right here. If you were to enchant it, it would give you a lot more damage, and it would probably be something like, yeah, 16% more damage. So just this enchant would give you over 200k DPS on Shaper, which is really good in a temp league and stuff like that. But you don't need it. You can still clear just fine without it, which is good because not many people, and not all people can afford it. But yeah, the quiver, life, crit multi, wed, and attack speed and resist again if you can get that. A Windjammer, actually I had a legacy Windjammer which for some reason gives me less DPS, which is pretty funny actually. But yeah, a non-legacy Windjammer, if it's good rolled, will give you more DPS than a legacy Windjammer. That's quite fun. It's because of the implicit, I think, but yeah. The jewels again, you just want crit multi, life, attack speed, and projectile damage or increased damage or whatever you can get. Now, let's look at the skill tree real quick. No, let's look at the gems first. We want an Orb of Storm setup with elemental weakness just for the, and curse on hit for the harder bosses. Then you want to summon Ice Golem. You can also use a summon Lightning Golem instead, but I chose the Ice Golem just because I want more accuracy. And it gives a little bit more DPS, but you can choose whatever you want. It's really up to you. Barrage, this is the setup here. For Barrage, this is all 2020 gems, nothing too fancy. We use Ice Bite as well. Immolate, we don't use that since we're using Elemental Focus, so that won't work, but everything else will work. And Ice Bite is good because we have our frenzies up all the time, which is also why we have ticked it in here. And when we have frenzies up, max frenzy charges, we also get onslaught thanks to the ascendancy node down here. We have picked the Raider, onslaught when on full frenzy charges, and chance to gain frenzy charges when hitting a rare or unique enemy, which means we'll have it up permanently, which is really strong. We also chose the path of the Ranger just to start from the Ranger start, and we chose Slayer, mainly Slayer for the only reason being that we keep our leech when we reach full life. Or else, if you don't care about leech, you should probably just pick the Raider Ascendancy, just in general, like this one over here. Yeah, where were we at? We were at the gems, alright. So this is the setup here. If you were to use a 5-link, you'd probably spec out of Ice Bite, I think. I think that's the one that would give you, yeah, Ice Bite is the one you can, that would remove the lowest amount of DPS. Tornado Shot, the same again. We use the same colors, which means that you can swap out the gems for single target, of course. And again here, if you were to, oh, let me see here, Tornado Shot. If you were to use a 5-link, you would remove Innervate. But Innervate is also nice because that it will give you a buff to your barrage skill, since it gives you a buff. You could also just, if you don't care about the buffs to your barrage, then just use a better gem in general, because the Innervate is not the strongest gem of all. You could use Elemental Focus, but that won't give you power charges from the curses. So you'd probably want something like Slower Projectile, Added Lightning, because Slow Projectile is also a bit annoying, but Added Lightning is probably the best choice here. Then we use for our auras, we use Wrath, Herald of Ice, Assassin's Mark, and Curse on Hit. You could also, if you wanted to, put your Wrath in here instead of the faster projectiles for the Blink Arrow, because you don't really need that, to be honest. So you could just put our Wrath in here instead, which would free up the slot in here, and then you could link your Herald of Ice with Onslaught instead, or sorry, no, Culling Strike, which would sometimes be better for current like monsters in general, but I don't think it works on bosses, which is kind of sad. You could also link it with the Innervate from the Tornado Shot. I think that would proc as well, but I'm not really sure if that would, if it will proc, because I don't really know much about the gem, like if it can proc with auras as well as heralds and stuff. But I think it should be able to proc. So you could put Innervate in here, but then again also it won't work on a single target, so it doesn't really matter too much. Your AoE clear is good enough. But yeah, so the DPS on our like AoE clear in general is 300k with full flasks and everything up. On AoE we also can take our power charges up, and yeah, probably not the projectile travel distance, but yeah, still 200k, it's good. For Shaper, where we face tank the Shaper, we have around, without barrage, 1.5 million, and that's without the Or that's with one enchant, but without that it's still like 1.3 million, which is still very good. So overall, this like the build is still strong in the new leagues. I wouldn't recommend it just as a league starter because that ranger is fucking shit for leveling, and you will need like twink gear to make it fun. Kitava and stuff is not fun as ranger, or Scion. There's just any bit range build in general, but once you get like good leveling uniques and a tabula and everything, you could do this build and it should be pretty straightforward and fun to play. So yeah, that's everything, guys. I will link the path building down below in the video and see you guys next time. Peace out.